Hello, everyone, and welcome to let me repeat, the Rock and Roll Podcast. Check out this record. My name is Frank, and with me is my good buddy and compadre, Mark.
Hey, Frank, and hello, listener.
That's right. You can find us on Spotify and Apple Podcast.
That every Friday you'll find a new episode of this here program dropping wherever you find this here program.
That's right. And for any new listeners out there, this is the podcast where Mark and I recommend albums to each other to review them. Plus, we have a wide variety of musical discussions, like our Spotlight series, where we dig into a band's catalog and we see what comes out on the other side.
Yeah, or in our verse series where we'll pit two albums against each other and make them duke it out for total stereo domination.
That's right. Be sure to check us out on Instagram and our new Facebook group. We like to drop additional content, and hopefully that will leave you wanting more of this musical goodness and, of course, Mark's random nonsense. And if you have a record, more importantly, that you want us to check out, just drop a comment wherever you find this, whether you subscribe. While you're at it, subscribe to us, review, rate. And I'm going to always say this, Mark. How are you, my man?
Frankie, it's Labor Day here in podcast land. And so I've been enjoying a day off and thankful for all the hardworking people who made it possible for us to have holidays and overtime and 40-hour work weeks and weekends. How about you?
Love it. Love it. Thank you. Yeah, man, I'm all good. It's Labor Day, right? We're enjoying our time here, and we're gonna have a fun one coming up. And I think we haven't done rock news in a while. So you want to take a look at some things that are going on currently?
Yeah, it turns out there's like a surprising amount of stuff going on, even though we're all supposed to be stuck in the house. So let's dive in.
Yeah, go figure. How does that happen? So this one's sad. So this is more of, I guess, the folk front. Sorry, but a couple weeks ago, a few weeks late with this, but Justin Townes Earle, son of Steve Earle, passed away at 38. I really liked his writing, and I know he had some demons, and that probably was his demise. I think that's what ended up being his demise. So I hope there's some peace for him wherever that may be. But yeah, Justin Townes Earle passed away, Mark.
Yeah, I had not heard of this guy until his passing, and hopefully as some free time clears up, I'll be able to get some record recommendations from Frank on what I should be listening to.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, let me know what you think.
Sure.
So on to happier news. There's a replacement biopic based on the 2017 book Trouble Boys. Now, Mark, we talked about Color Me Obsessed and how kind of odd that was. And I read Paul Westerberg wasn't a fan of it. I'm all in for a proper replacements biopic. What say you?
Yeah, I was going to tease you and tell you that you were the only one who wants this, but of course there are the Mongoloids from Color Me Obsessed, documentary that all want it so they can complain about not being in it enough or how they ruined the scene or whatever. But seriously, they're kind of a cool cult band, so it'd be cool to see a movie that exposes that to a wider audience. I just hope the film can get across what it was really like for them and not fictionalize it. So many biopics just kind of make stuff up, and I'd prefer a documentary.
Yeah.
Like a really nice one without their crazy fans, but I'll take what I can get.
Well, follow-up question for that, because did you like the Queen biopic, the Bohemian Rhapsody?
Haven't seen it.
Oh, okay, all right. So that's for another conversation.
Haven't seen the Rocket Man one.
That was good.
No, I haven't seen it.
Oh, you haven't seen that? Okay.
Yeah, all that recent ones that came out, I haven't seen any of.
Okay, all right. So we'll talk about the Queen one on a later date.
Sure.
We have a Woodstock '99 doc coming to Netflix at some point. Of course, we have an episode on the year '99, which you can find in our archives. But Mark, I would totally give this a watch. Would you?
I'd be interesting to see what it covers and how honestly the filmmakers look back at the events of Woodstock '99. I remember being a teenager, I got my hands on a double VHS of the Woodstock 69 film, and it seemed like a perfect concert, and everyone who attended just had the best summer ever. But that wasn't the whole picture. It didn't cover the drugs. It didn't cover the rape and the violence and
Totally.
And really, all the things, the turmoil that led up to the Rolling Stones performance in California a few months later, where a guy got stabbed and the Summer of Love ended immediately. So I'd really like to see what Woodstock 99 comes back with and how honestly they can look at the entire thing as opposed to just the concert footage.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think the big thing that caused the fires was like the obscene price of water right at the time, I think, right? So I would love to kind of get into the thinking, the logic or the illogic behind stuff like
Right.
that. So yeah, I mean, it would be interesting. I would definitely watch it. Um, some Metallica news because we love talking about Metallica, right? With
Uh,
the
we do.
Metallica
Not
with the
even,
release.
I'm going to apologize for it either.
Never, never. With the release of the S&M 2 album, Metallica, they became the first act to have a mainstream rock song at number one in 4 different decades. Crazy, crazy. The track off S&M 2 is All Within My Hands. I mean, what else can we say? I mean, I hope the new studio album's in the mix because, as we mentioned in the Metallica episode found in the archives, I think another strong album will mark a truly impressive arc in their career, right?
I'd be interested to hear a follow up for Hardwired to Self Destruct. But as much as I love Metallica, I'd be okay if they didn't. That said, I think we can at least, I think we're going to get at least one more out of them. I just hope it's cool and thrashy and about monsters and shit.
I'll take it. Absolutely. So let's do a top 10 list. We'll do a collective list, 5 and 5. And since we're talking about biopics earlier, let's talk about what biopics we would like to see made. So we'll do 5 and 5. And if you're ready, man, kick us off.
Top 10. Are we still doing that? Are we still doing the top 10 thing?
Top 10.
If you've been paying attention to the show lately, you understand that I'm completely obsessed with Motorhead. That said, I'd want a biopic for Mr. Lemmy Kilmister, the patron saint of all things rock and fucking roll. Lemmy was known for drinking, drugging, womanizing, and being an avid reader. The fact of the matter is that there's a ton we don't know about Lemmy. I'd love to see a film focused on Lemmy and the gang of Motorhead as Ace of Spades has already rocketed them to stardom, and what keeps them from staying in that stratosphere and the absolute mania that had to have been going on around them. I think that'd be really interesting. What's your first pick?
Yeah, that'd be a great insight, I think, to that. And Marc sent me a tune the other day. It was the ballad, and man, that was incredible, Marc. That was incredible.
A lot of people are going to give me shit for this. The best Motorhead album is from 2005?
Yeah.
From the early 2000s. It's We Are Motorhead. That fucking record kicks ass. Check that out, dude. That record's so damn good.
You sent me the song, and I was like, whoa, hold on now. Really? And I had to double check the date, but great song. Great song. Yeah. All right. So my number one one of my number biopics. Sorry, of course I had the replacements, but obviously that's not in the mix because we already talked about it. I actually had Hendrix on here, but Marc informed me, and thankfully he did, that there was a biopic feature on Hendrix with Andre 3000 from Outkast. I've never seen it, so I can't say if it merits another film or not. So I had to omit now the Hendrix from the list. So here's my number one. It's Bing Crosby or the Rhythm Boys. So as of 2004, check this: Bing Crosby has sold close to 1 billion record tapes, compact discs, and digital downloads around the world. He may be the biggest selling recording artist of all time. Only the Beatles, Elvis Presley, and Michael Jackson can rival his sales figures. That's kind of crazy. He has sold 200 million records by 1960, and the figure had doubled by 1980. His version, of course, of White Christmas by Irving Berlin remains the best-selling recording of all time, and the Guinness Book of World Records reports worldwide sales of 50 million. So listen, he was Sinatra before Sinatra. Old Blue Eye saw him and he says that was it. He was part of the Rhythm Boys, consisting of Harry Barris and Al Rinker, of course known for their hits Mississippi Mud. And so the Bluebirds and the Blackbirds got together and it launched his solo career. I would like to see something on him, especially because I heard he was pretty tough to please. So
yeah. What's interesting is you mentioned Irvin Berlin. I recently watched one of the Star Trek Next Generation movies. I think it's the last one. I can't remember the name of it. It was so bad. But there's a part where Data starts singing, and Worf, who's like drunk on Romulan ale, is like, "Not Irvin Berlin." And you're like, how far in the future is this guy penetrating that Worf hates him? Anyways,
that's some penetration to still be disliking him that far into the future.
In like 3287 or whatever fucking year TNG happens. But so Frank's going to have the band on later. But my number 2 pick, I've been obsessed with him since I found out about the Ramones, is Dee Dee Ramone. He's my favorite of the Ramone boys. Dee Dee was a junkie and one hell of a songwriter. You know, he's the one who stole the TV so that they could buy Chinese rocks. I'd love to focus on his struggle with addiction, his love, his love life, and playing in one of the most dynamic bands to crawl out of Queens. There's just so much fascinating stuff just around Dee Dee that I think he would warrant his own biopic, but I wouldn't say no to a Joey or a Johnny or hey, I like a good Marky.
Yeah. I mean, listen.
What Frank's thoughts are on it in a little bit, unless you want to go now.
Yeah, you know what? I can build off of that. Absolutely. So the Ramones. So, it's so funny. I'm not sure why anything on them hasn't been made. I'm sure it's a licensing issue, something like that, the rights to the songs, whatever. I mean, I'm thankful that we didn't have a shit version that came out. But now with the 4 original Ramones now dead and gone, I think it's something that we need to tribute the first punk rock band. But as you said, if it's about Dee Dee and his struggles, that'd be awesome too. All 4 of them, that'd be great. I mean, listen, New York in the late 70s was absolute shit. So for them to kind of go through everything that's going on, then, I mean, in late 70s, right? I mean, think about Taxi Driver, the movie, just and how, I could almost imagine that was the atmosphere. Summer of Sam. There's a blizzard of 77, right? A massive heat wave. Everything was just going to hell. Gee, sounds like kind of 2020 or 2020, right? But yeah. Hey, there you go. So yeah, I'm with you on Mark. I'm with you on that one, Mark. So you're next.
Very cool. Chuck Berry. I'm sure there's something about Chuck Berry in film somewhere. He's a legendary rock and roller. He's a guitar hero and a pioneer. But past his prime, he got into a lot of trouble, particularly with cameras and bathrooms. So I would love to see a biopic about Chuck Berry deciding to put cameras in toilets. I want to know that whole process, what he was thinking, what was going on, how much blow was he doing, who was trying to talk him out of it, who talked him into it. I think there's so much there, especially with a figure like Chuck Berry, that people just don't understand. You know, they think he's just Johnny B. Good and a couple of hits.
Yeah.
There's so much to this guy that I really feel like you could do a cool biopic that didn't really need to focus on how did he learn to play guitar, where did he get his, you know what I mean? Like, you could touch on that stuff in the beginning, but I want the old dirty Chuck Berry.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. So he basically invented the rock and roll strumming, right? That whole strumming pattern that everyone used. But we know that, right? Mark knows that. I know that. I'm sure most rock and roll enthusiasts know it. You have Roll Over Beethoven. You have Johnny B. Good. All those songs. But what about after that stuff? Because he just died a couple of years ago. Like, there's a whole long life he lived that I would only wish to get to an age like that.
You're right. I think it's lived.
Lived. I would really like to have lived. But I think Mark's right. There's a whole bunch of stuff to Chuck Berry that we would.
Really interesting.
Right. Yeah. So the biopic could take you. It could start at the point that we already know happened, right, and kind of go from there, especially with the late years. Yeah. I have one on Gene Vincent and Eddie Cochran. Yes. It's not, I know Gene and Eddie is a Stray Cat song, but I'm talking again, Gene Vincent, Eddie Cochran, to me, the two really, they're early rock and roll legends. Eddie's in particular was cut short, but I would honestly like to see and hear more of them, having such a limited choice, especially if Eddie's works. I would feel like a film would do them justice. Obviously, there's going to be some dramatization in there and things obviously that they put in that didn't necessarily happen. Maybe it could be something about rockabilly in general, because it's such a niche and has a niche and narrow audience. So something like that, I would be more than willing to watch.
Very cool. So my next pick is Tim Armstrong, frontman of punk rock royalty Rancid. He's lived a wild and borderline reckless life, as suited for tabloids as any other pop star. Between leaving Operation Ivy and create the huge success that is And Out Come the Wolves, writing songs for pop stars, dating pop stars, battling drug addiction, making his own comebacks. guest appearance on the X-Files. I mean, what more of a fascinating character could you probably want? And spoiler alert, when this thing comes out, Frank's going to tell you he liked Lars's role better.
So the first initial comment was going to be, oh, well, maybe we could get a Lars one too. But yeah. So listen, he's the punk Tom Waits, as far as your quirky, fascinating characters, as you want to just know constantly what's going on in their minds. I mean, I think I read somewhere that up until a certain time, I don't even know if the guy had a driver's license or if he was like driving, right? It's so fascinating, but to be part of all these really huge brands, in essence, like you said, dating pop stars on shows, still cranking out music. What's his life like? That's what I want to know. Yeah. Sure. Yeah, I want to know that.
The day in the life of Tim Armstrong, that'd be interesting.
That'd be a hell of interesting, for sure. Like a series, maybe even too. I'll take. All right, so this is mainstream stuff, but Van Halen. This is me wanting to see kind of the inner workings of such a huge band that had a fixture and a character and a lead singer like David Lee Roth, and then lose that and not miss a beat with someone like Sammy. I mean, it's still amazing to think that they went from them, but I want to know kind of more of the dynamic and how now these two figures are just permanently linked to each other in life. So I would like something like that.
What would in your Van Halen biopic, who is the center figure? Is it Eddie? Is it David? Is it David Lee Roth? That is it Sammy Hagar? Do you do it from Alex Van Halen's point of view, which would probably be kind of boring? I'm completely losing the bass player's name. All I can think of is
Michael Anthony.
Michael Anthony, thank you. Do you do it from his point of view? Who's got the more interesting story? Because Eddie is so painfully unlikable that would you really sit, like, how many, I know you would, how many other people would sit through we'll call it 2 hours, right? It's going to be longer than Star Wars. 2 hours of Eddie Van Halen. I don't think I could put up with it. You'd have to get somebody wonderfully charismatic who completely changes the character.
Right. So you bring up a good point, because if you focus it from Eddie's point of view, he's unlikable. If you focus it from Alex, who could be the one pulling the puppet string, so to speak, for Eddie, it's entirely boring. If you focus on, like, if you have it from Dave's point of view the whole time, forget about it. And then Sammy, I don't know how interesting that is. You may need to pull it. Maybe we're making it as we talk about it right now. Maybe it has to be like a little bit of all of them.
We'll do it like that Bob Dylan.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, where it's from a different.
Every 10 minutes, it's different people playing them, and you have no idea what's going on the whole fucking time.
Absolutely. There we go. So people come to us if they want their script written, because
please.
Mark got it. Yeah.
Take cash. So my last pick, right?
Yep.
Mine is actually going to be legendary composer Frédéric Chopin. So there is a painting of Chopin at the Flagler Mansion in Palm Beach County. If you've never been to Palm Beach County, the Flagler Mansion. Flagler is famous for building the railroad all the way through South Florida.
Yep.
Built a huge mansion for himself in West Palm Beach. There is a painting in that house that you can go see called Chopin on His Deathbed. And I've been fascinated by the painting since I first saw it. I'd love to see a movie about how or why that painting came to be. There's a 1945 film about Chopin's life that I haven't seen, but from what I've read about it, the movie I'm proposing is far more interesting. After all, don't mind me, I'm having a hard time reading. After all, he requested that his heart be cut out of his chest and sent back to Warsaw before he died. So Chopin on his deathbed, presumably right before he cut his fucking heart out. I want to know about that. Why isn't that a movie?
It's got to start right there. The movie.
You just see him sweating, and they're like, "Hey man, you're sure about this? Because this knife is sharp." And he's like, You're like, I want to know. I want to know.
And then he was some heck of a piano player too, to my knowledge, right? I mean,
he's. Couple people know him.
Couple people know him. So pianos, hearts getting ripped out. We have a movie. We have your movie, folks.
Yeah, it's like Indiana Jones, but better suits.
Got it. Cool. I'm in. I'm in.
What's your final pick for biopic?
So final one again. It's one that probably has been beaten like a dead horse, but here we go. So it's the Beatles. But listen, there's a quite a bit on the Fab Four or things that are influenced by them. Of course, you had the spoof, the Ruddles, which was great. Across the Universe, I Want to Hold Your Hand in the late '70s. Yesterday, which was recent, which I haven't seen. What I'm looking for though is the Lennon McCartney dynamic and relationship. I'm not talking about that 2000 made for TV garbage movie, Two of Us. Like, I want to see that competition. I want them to see them as brothers standing on polar opposite points as they did and trying to figure out kind of how to exist. I want to see how they interacted, how they argued, how they wrote songs collectively and individually. I feel there's much more to their relationship that Paul carries inside of him and doesn't share for obvious reasons. And listen, there's a decent amount of footage of them, and I have the 9 VHS tapes anthology that came out, right? And it's funny because you're very limited with what you see with John and Paul and their dynamic. So I want something that focuses specifically on them too. So
I think that'd be really interesting, especially if we pick up as the band is disillusioned with playing live.
yeah,
And they're forced into the studio to experiment, and we get the birth of those, Norwegian Wood. We get the birth of Abbey Road, and see where these dynamics begin and go. I think that'd be really interesting. I'd also be on board for a partying with Ringo biopic.
I knew you were gonna bring Ringo up at some point.
Ringo hanging out, because hey, look, George would be cool. George actually has a really fascinating life. If you go,
Oh
I'm sure
yeah,
you've seen some of the documentaries about him getting stabbed in
yeah.
his house on his birthday or whatever that was. But let's do some Ringo stuff, man. Let's party with Ringo for a little bit. What was it like to score the easiest job in fucking rock and roll and ride the roller coaster with 2 amazing songwriters? And you get so high, you show up with a song called Octopus's Garden, and people are like, cool, man, it works. I would love to be a part of that.
Well, maybe they can focus on Pete Best, the guy who Ringo took his place, right? And then that guy just ended up.
Sad life.
Yeah, gosh, Pete Worst.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was fun. That was fun to talk about that. And again, if you want scripts written, everyone, first email Marc, and then we'll collaborate together, and we'll go from there.
Stuff.
Yeah, totally. All right, Marc. So if you want to introduce us into your pick that you had for me.
Absolutely. So today we're talking about the San Francisco punk band Dead to Me and their second full-length album, African Elephants. The band has a bit of a tricky background, so we'll unpack that real quick before diving into the album. Playing on this record, this one, is Tyson Chicken. His name is Tyson. They call him Chicken. His last name is Enchario Roach. I'm not. You guys know I'm terrible with names. I apologize.
I'm hungry now.
His name is Chicken. Go for it. He's on vocals and bass. He's also of Western Addiction. Nathan Grice on vocal and guitar, as well as Ian Anderson on drums and backing vocal. This is a drastic change from the 4-piece from the previous album and EP. That lineup included Jack Delimpio? I'm going to say it wrong. The guy from One Man Army, who would go on to join the Swinging Utters and the band Toy Guitar, as well as Brandon Pollock on guitar, also a member of One Man Army, both leaving after the Little Brother EP, which I happen to have a 12-inch copy of.
Oh.
I also have a 12-inch copy of the album we'll be talking about tonight.
No kidding. Regular color vinyl or?
No, it's black. It's the color black.
Nice.
I did notice as I was going through this, we're doing the episode, you guys know that me and Frank really break in. We get into the lyrics. We check everything out. I found a lot of the lyrics online were wrong.
Oh.
So I referred back to the album for clarification on quite a few things. Sometimes it's just one word here or there. Sometimes the lyrics were completely wrong. So look for a good source when it comes to lyrics.
There you go.
The band released their third album, Moscow Penny Ante, in 2011 with Sam Johnson on guitar and Ken Yamazaki on rhythm guitar. Jack would rejoin the group in 2016 for the single I Want to Die in Los Angeles. Excuse me, that's an EP, I Want to Die in Los Angeles. An LP is said to be coming, but there's been nothing since. there's 2 singles in 2018 and the 2016 LP, but they've been quiet ever since. So that's the lineup and some of the shuffling of cards and players up to this point.
It's a lot of shuffle for a band that's pretty young. And as if everyone's watching this on YouTube, Mark mentioned they are from San Francisco, and I do have a very nice 49ers hat on. I live and die by this team, and I'm still sour about the Super Bowl. So, yeah. All right. Anyway, this is not a sports show.
Yeah, I mean,
now, Mark, listen, I understand that Jack he left the band to focus on his newborn and full-time commitment with another San Francisco band, Swinging Utters, right? So I think it's safe to say that his influence on the Utters can be heard for sure in a good way. I think he's a very talented songwriter. I really like the toy guitar album he did in 2015 called In This Mess. So my question to you, Mark, is I'm interested as to why this album as opposed to the album with Jack, who I know you love what he's done with the Utters, because I know you really covet those Utters albums. And is there a change of sound from those than the one you recommended to me?
Yeah, great question. And in fairness, I do own all of the records that he plays on with the Swingin' Utters on vinyl. Some of them are in color. We'll get to that conversation another time.
Yes.
So Jack joined the Utters for Here Under Protest album and has been playing rhythm guitar with them since. So in case you guys are wondering where that starts.
Yeah.
Though he wasn't touring with them last year when I saw them live. I think that's a little bit to do with the full-time parent thing. And to be honest with you, I wasn't burdened by any preconceptions or notions of One Man Army or Toy Guitar because I had no idea he had anything to do with them.
Oh.
So this record, for me, sounded like a natural progression of the band, because if you take certainly the Little Brother EP, which I absolutely adore, it's fantastic, and then put African Elephants on behind it, it sounds like the band's simply progressing. We get Chicken balancing out a little bit more of the singing on this record. So it really just does feel like they've scored one into the other. So it wasn't an issue of picking an album that Jack was playing on over one that he wasn't. I just really liked the feel of this record. I liked its Clash-like moments. I liked that it was still really progressive and really did some interesting things. I do want to make a correction. Last week, I said that this was a political punk album, and I don't think that's a fair assessment. I think it's better to say that this is a socially conscious album. There's not any one particular political movement that they're really trying to push. If anything, this album came out in 2009, so it's probably reactionary to the last Bush, into the beginning of the Obama administration. But none of that really comes up. There's no direct political, firing line. I think that's a good way to say it.
Right.
So I just wanted to make a little bit of a correction there for our listeners at home so they don't think I'm a total fucking asshole. I mean, I can be. Hey, look, some of those themes cross. I like that record. Cuban Ballerina, which was their first record. Little Brother was the second EP. They were really great. But I felt like this, like I said, it did a really great job of grasping those California punk rock roots, really blending in that Clash, Devil May Care reggae attitude, and just really moving forward in terms of growing as a band. So you ready to jump into the track by track, my friend?
Yeah, absolutely. Open us up, my man.
So excellent. So the first track on this guy is called X. I don't think it's about the famous Los Angeles band, though, Frank. Which I don't like. I don't like the band X.
Fear, and a couple others I don't know much about. So,
yeah. So I kind of love this opening to the album, where it's this chill kind of reggae vibe they use with some clips of political commentary to just kind of set the mood. Apparently set to lyrics about police state that's choking out their places to skate. I believe they're using the skating as an analogy for our freedoms. Not pointing a finger at any one party or political figure, but rather the freedoms which are under attack is what I think they're trying to do there. And I think they do use a cool kind of ska reggae way to do that. I know people discard these kinds of songs. Once you mention skating, people just think it's childish. And they say that, punk's immature. But I think this resonates a little bit deeper with the way they used the sound of the band to press that message forward. What did you think of the opening track, X?
Well, one thing I didn't expect was the laid back ska tune as the opening track. And I did like that they did that, because they could have easily kept the trend of just going into a 3 to 4 chord punk song and kind of started the listener out that way. But I think it was bold for them to actually choose to go ahead and do the ska tune. Now, not going to comment on the political commentary per se, but I know you did correct yourself where it is more social. I think you're right on that. You're not being told how to live by someone else, or as I always say, there's not a collective crime being brought against a group of people, regardless of your innocence or guilt, because then that's a little bit of a different story. But this isn't the case, though, here. So back to the song again. I like how they didn't go into the 3-4 chord punk tune to open things up. It also showcases that they could do ska songs too, which I don't know. Sometimes I don't think punk, just because you do punk doesn't mean you could do ska also, right? Some bands have tried it, and I don't think it works well. So the fact that you could do this to open up what's said to be a punk album, well, shows they're thinking outside the box a little bit. So Modern Muse, that's number 2. So it's a cool melody here with the verses. I wish they carried that into the chorus, because that's where I expected it could go. Not saying that that's, it's a right or wrong thing. I was expecting it to go there. I felt that just took where the chord progression would go, and they just kind of rolled with where the natural progression was. But I think they could have maybe just done a little something with the melody. At the 2-minute mark, though, we get a breakdown, which is very welcomed. It's not a bad tune. Again, me personally, like, I'm thinking now of as a songwriter, I just wanted them to create a little bit more of a memorable chorus, but it is a cool melody.
Cool. Yeah, I really like the pace of this song. Plus, they use the word psych right off the bat, just to kind of really contrast what you're hearing with what they're trying to say. We're doing a little bit of looking back on a scene, which, Frank and I always kind of frown about, but I think they do it in a smart way. What that kind of means to them, what it means to us, and how we keep it going, and getting people to sing along and then sing their own songs. I thought it was a really interesting song. I don't think this is much of a breakdown. I think it's a bridge, Frank. I think it's a songwriting skill called a bridge, not so much a breakdown. I like that woo part. I really dig that. I like the woos. They do a couple of woos and ahs and oohs throughout the album that I think are really well placed. I don't dare call them harmonies, but I like the way they're done.
There's some harmonies going on, right?
No, definitely.
Yeah.
Track 3 is Nothing Running Through My Brain. Pretty straightforward punk tune here. Simple lyrics that really work. They do a great job of keeping them simple and not complicating the song with too many details. I love the lines. We're all in a coma. It's okay. You didn't know. I didn't know either. It'd be so much easier if someone could explain. I just like the way that felt and the way they used it to connect to the listener.
I mean, we're all in a coma now, right? I mean, that's kind of
feeling that way a little bit.
Yeah. Listen, it's a simple punk tune with the recurring theme, a la kind of Ramones, where they take this one thing, like I'm thinking of like "We're a Happy Family" by the Ramones, and that is constantly being said in the tune to make it memorable. I kind of feel like this is like that too. I'm not sure which vocalist this is. Do you know if this is Tyson or Nathan?
I believe this is Nathan.
Okay. But the overall tone definitely works. I like the chorus here because it resonated with me, and I was humming it along. So when people do that, obviously, it's made some sort of impact. Nothing else to say other than it's a good punk tune here. So I like it. Here we go. We got A Day Without War. Okay, so musically, this is the growth that I like to see from bands like this. They're giving me the same course punk tune for 12 tracks. I don't know how impressed I'm going to be, as I'm not 19 anymore. I'm an old dude, and I want some variety. So I am an old dude. So this track musically provides that. Again, I'm not making the commentary on their commentary. It's a good tune. I actually would have taken another minute of this. I know we always say about the length of songs too and how we should shorten them, but this one I actually wanted more of. So I like what they did here too, and the guitar sounded nice and clean. What about you?
We haven't mentioned that. This album's 13 tracks, clocks in, I believe, just over 33 minutes.
Yeah, think about that. Right? Think about that.
So they definitely keep them moving. This feels like a rich kind of very Clash tribute to me. They were really honing in on that Clash feel. It's interesting to me that you don't want to comment on an anti-war song. But that's right. I dig this chorus and the repetition of the title. I really feel that they sell it through that. Again, we're a happy family. Another day without war. Really, just trying to promote that idea of finding hope of a life without violence.
Sure, absolutely. And to piggyback kind of on what you said, I don't know what the intent is right behind the song and which war are we referring to? Yes, as far as a grand stance on anti-war, absolutely. But it's hard to kind of put your head in the songwriter space. So that's why I wasn't making a specific comment, because what's your definition of war and then which war are you referred to, all those things. So that's all. But next tune, Mark, Bad Friends.
Yeah. The next tune is Bad Friends, as Frank correctly pointed out there. We get this down-tempo, big, bassy intro with matching drums and the chorus. It's a cool transition from Day Without a War into the verse. The three-piece does a cool job of building up to that second chorus, which I really like the feel of. Quote, I hear them going out, I hear them coming in. I think most people can relate to that theme when we're talking about songs of these people entering and exiting their lives and what they're doing and what that cycle is like. They also do a cool thing where the drums pick up pace before everything else. So you really feel that tension building. And then you get these lines. I get the feeling they think that I can hear them, but I can hear them loud and, excuse me. I get the feeling they think that I can't hear them, but I can hear them loud and clear. I can't explain to you just what they said, but it sounds good in my head. So it's one of those really cool things of like, oh, I could hear them, but I didn't hear what they said, but I could hear them, and it's messing with you. And that, I think we've all been through a friendship or two like that. I know I used to live with a guitar player that I felt that way all the time. So, Frankie, what do you think of Bad Friends?
Well, first of all, that guitar player was not me, by the way.
No. Frank and I have not lived together.
No. That would have made for some interesting stories, though. But so the way you explained it is probably going to alter maybe what I had. So I had that this track was just okay for me. I kind of got bored with it. The slow beginning, it didn't catch my attention right away. So that was a little bit of an issue. I think it was initially thought it was generic and I wasn't relating to it musically. And I know I wanted a longer tune last time, but this one I actually wanted it to be shorter. However, the way you just kind of explained that does give me a different perspective of the song as far as its content goes. And of course, Bad Friends, we've all been there. Mark mentioned the scenario that we all know way too well. So yeah, so this track was okay for me, but I see it differently after your explanation. Libby Lais, did I say that right?
I think it's Libby Lais.
Libby Lais. Again, more growth with a jangly indie rock vibe. I like the use of other languages in the songs. In this case, this is German, and in the first tune, we have some Spanish. So it packs a punch for sure. Again, that shows you're thinking outside the box when you're trying to add different languages into songs, which you don't hear most of the time. So I enjoyed this tune. I liked it for sure.
Yeah, this is a cool little dance number that happens to be about creating the atomic bomb. Again, just more of that kind of Clash influence of growing as a punk band, and really for me in the right direction. This is where I would like to see punk rock go, is albums like this where we can be really smart about telling a story, really creative in the method in which we use it, and really proficient as musicians. So I really dig that number. The next song and the last track on the A side is Cruel World. More social commentary here, but again, the lyrics are delivered without pointing blame, rather pointing out how cruel the world is. I love that they change up the song structure and instrumentation here and give us something a little bit more somber and kind of hopeful despite how bleak it can appear.
Yeah, so This could be my favorite musically on the album by far. I think to me it sounds like it almost sounds like a 12 string is being strummed somewhere in the back there. I know it's not, but it has a really full sound, and you could hear the instruments very loud, and which is nice. It's a profound message. Listen, that there's a cruel world. In fact, 2020 is by definition a prime example of that. The silver lining to me is that it's important for people to know this concept, that it exists, and things like malice, hatred, hostility are very much alive, and you have to proceed with caution in life. At least that's how I look at it to be. But I think this is musically, I think this is definitely my favorite on the album. We get 3-chord strut. I got a good old rock and roll vibe here from the first 50 minutes. I didn't expect this song to go in different directions with regards to having a noticeable chorus and that middle 8 or bridge or, whatever that may be. But I thought making it be a steady output of a similar tempo made sense for an album placement purposes. I kind of wanted a little bit more out of the song, but it definitely had that nice 50s rock and roll vibe in the first 50. I'm sorry, rock and roll vibe in the first 50 seconds.
Yeah. I'd like to have seen a little that last change go on for another verse. I really like the way that last verse comes in and what they do with it musically. I would have loved to have seen a little bit more of that. Lyrically, it almost feels a little bit. Frank and I were talking about Fugazi again before we started recording. Lyrically, this feels a little bit like that Fugazi kind of stream of consciousness in the way he's done the lyrics here. They feel kind of torn out of somebody's notebook and just set to music as manic as the words themselves. I really dug this song. The next track is California Sun. More of that kind of reggae ska embrace with a personal number about self-abuse and moving on, trying to clear that hurdle. The repeated words from the chorus just really kind of underscore the heartache we've all felt trying to convince ourselves that we're doing the right thing. Reminds me a bit of our recent episode on the Frights.
Yeah.
This track reminded me of some of those Fright tunes. I wonder, this is old enough, if the Frights were inspired by it.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is where I get dancey on this one for sure. You get nice clean chords, creates this bright atmosphere. And of course, the title of the song, you already kind of have that connotation that's going to be like a shiny tune, or at least as shiny as it could possibly be. I appreciate when these bands take a break from the punk and they add this again into this mix. It's like they're setting up for what's to come. And I hope stuff like that pops up in the future records, because I think they do it well. I think they do it well. Which makes me fall right into the next track, which is called Fell Right In. It makes sense for after the last song that we had musically that we have this track. We talk about it so much with the album placement. So yeah, let's get more energetic for sure. As far as this tune goes, it's a middle of the road song with some generic lyrics. I can't say this is my favorite on the album. So I know that there were some others that I definitely fancied more. And we had Marc just get up for a second here, ladies and gentlemen, folks. So he should be back any minute, and he's back, everybody. So
I hope you guys couldn't hear me flush.
It's okay if we did.
So I agree with you on the placement of this song in terms of where it is on the album, with the energy of it. It really complements California Sun. However, I don't think the lyrics are all that generic.
Okay.
We're kind of middle of the road. This song is about fiending for a release from social confines and inhibitions. They refer to the, I'm going to say this wrong probably, the
Dysonian or
Dysonian mysteries, which are referenced, that's super generic. Everybody does that. Which are actually the rituals that the ancient Greek used to use, such as like intoxicants, music, and dance, to relieve themselves of the hardship of everyday life. Contextually, this is the theme most bands have taken away, and probably the primary theme of this record. This record is kind of about breaking those restraints of normalcy, and this song that I think does an amazing job of showcasing that particular theme.
Yeah, and what I meant generic too, I meant more on the rhyme scheme side, and that's something I should have clarified. And ancient Greeks, I'm part Greek. There you go, right?
You should be disappointed you didn't catch that.
I dare you, Marc. That's the next one.
So I dare you. This song really shows off the musicianship of the three-piece rather nicely. They're able to play with tempo and rhythm and keep the listener really glued to the speaker to hear what they're going to do next. Lyrically, we get some cryptic lines that play well off the music. It's clearly personal, excuse me, but it's clearly between the writer and whoever he wrote it for. They don't let on enough to give you too many clues as to what it is he's really talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I like the strumming patterns here. It's a nice change up, and of course, there's some nice layers and hidden melodies. I give the band credit for, again, really making this tight rhythmically, and I could only imagine live how that would sound. I could see this being a really impactful part in the set where this song is played. I think if you listen to this track, it's weird because every time I hear new stuff and its compact nature, it's amazing because this song is only 2 minutes long, but it's crazy how it could cut through someone emotionally. It's a really good tune. So I like it. Next is Tierra del Fuego, which is the archipelago off the southernmost tip of South American mainland. So Clash-like commentary here and even matching the band and musical style. It's not traditional in-your-face punk, which the Clash obviously did. They toned it down and still made the commentary, which was cool. I like when songs are the polar opposites with regards to the song topics, which are aggressive and the musical vibe. Fun tune. It's a good tune.
Very nice. I dig the spirit of this, very Clash influence, like you said, but also very much sounding like themselves, or at least themselves on this record for sure. The intro transition is clean and flows really nice into that first verse. The title translates to Land of Fire. Pair that with the lyrics, they expand their worldview beyond, that kind of misconceived skate park worldview that punks are so adamantly accused of having and not being able to move beyond. I think this is a much smarter song than a lot of people would like to give them credit for. And we're on to the last track.
Blue.
It's called Blue. That's right. You're my boy, Blue. Yeah. The contrast here from the rest of the album makes me feel like this easily could have just been a B-side and not made the record. I like the stuttery rock sound. I'm sure you're going to say it's grungy. In fact, I read that after I wrote this, and he does say it's grungy. But they pair it well with these like kind of clean, jangly guitar parts that really work to balance this song out. It's very verse, chorus, but the dynamic between those two really balances very well. As far as who Blue is and what Blue has experienced, the band does a great job of leaving that to the listener. I think it was a really cool way to close an album. What do you think, Frank?
Yeah, so the brooding bass to open up the track, and almost, you guessed it, Mark, a grunge or a post-grunge guitar enters the space in 50 seconds. They switch from distortion to clean strummed guitar. So, yay, we have this ability to separate the song from the others, which is an identifiable part of the song. I think it was a good way to end the album. Absolutely. So, Blue. What is blue? What is their definition of blue? It's probably different than our definition or what it means, but cool way to end the album. So,
yeah. Is it a feeling? Is it a person? Like I kind of like the ambiguity of Blue.
It's a state of being. Yeah. What is it exactly? Or is it the guy from You're My Boy Blue from Old School? So.
They make me Frank the Tank, and that would make me I don't know, somebody from one of the fat guys.
Oh, Vince Vaughn's character, I was going to say.
I got real thumbs.
There you go.
Half a thumb.
All right, so shall we do some final thoughts on this album, my man? All right, so coming back to Jack Darnipple with his evident influences. There you go. And the others and the style he shows on the Toy Guitar album, I wonder the impact of him with regards to Dead to Me. Would the album be different if he was still in the band? Of course, as far as this album goes, it's a good punk rock record. I don't know how much, and this is obviously where me and Mark have had conversations on, how much am I relating to it nowadays? I always joke about that I'm entering this dad rock phase, and that doesn't mean I don't do cardio to workouts of punk bands I grew up on. I just don't know if I'll be taking on any newer bands of the outfit along for the ride. That could be wrong though. I could totally be wrong. This album showcased some elements of the band being more than just a 3 to 4 chord punk band. I hope that continues in their next and future albums, which I will give a spin. If they release a new album, I will give it a spin. I don't know how much I will be circling back to this album at this time, but things change day to day with me, so who knows?
Yeah. So I'd recommend you check out the singles he played on when he came back in 2018, as well as the 2016 I Want to Die in Los Angeles. I think those are great. The EP is like 3 songs. The 2 singles are 2 singles. Really good stuff. I'm sure this would be a completely different LP if he were still in the band, as he wasn't. I'm not going to worry about it. I think we've got a really cool progressive punk rock record that embraces that California punk rock root with a big slice of the Clash. I mean, the Clash's influence on this record is undeniable. You know, for the record, that's 11 years old at this point. It still feels really fresh and relevant today. This feels like it could be a 2020 record.
I agree with that. With
some of the dread that's in there. You know, so I think it's pretty good for a record that came out back in 2009 to still feel that fresh. I had hoped that some of that Clash influence might grab you a little more, might pull you in, get you a little more hooked.
Sure.
But you know what? That's okay. You know, I don't think you're in a dad rock phase. I think we got to try to understand what you're doing. I think you're pushing away from punk rock a little bit. Not that it's a bad thing and that you're exploring other worlds, but I don't think you're doing dad rock. I think dad rock is something a little bit different that you're not quite a part of. I think Oasis is definitely in that dad rock field, considering where it happened in time and space. But I think, you know, I'm taking this as a personal challenge to find new and modern punk rock that pushes the envelope, in a way that I think will keep you interested without isolating you.
I like that.
I think that's a fair challenge, and that doesn't mean my next record is going to be punk rock for you, as I don't know what I'm picking for you next. But we'll keep that challenge going, and who knows, maybe you'll find some cool dad rock for me.
Yeah, well, listen, and we just got done with the Oasis episode too, so a lot of that could be on the forefront of my mind, and I appreciate the kind words. And perhaps I'm thinking of myself as an old fuddy-duddy more than I appear, or maybe I'm just feeling super old this week, right? It could be.
Fuddy-duddy. It's still the funny thing.
If so, then that's. And if I'm just feeling old this week, then that's a different conversation for my therapist, right? So listen, it's hard to describe what's exciting me now and what isn't. With regards to my relation of punk rock, it's still there and it's still strong. Bands like Lagwagon, Rancid, Bad Religion, Propaganda, I adore. The music is energy in my veins. That's what made me like it, was that energy to begin with, and it gets my senses all in a way that's really kind of even hard to explain to someone. I think with this album, and before I knew about the details, I was perhaps maybe expecting that, again, that Jack influence on that indie kind of rock side, what he's done now with the others and toy guitars. So that's why I asked you earlier about it. I don't know if it's necessarily distancing from punk, as it's more of it was a fixture for my musical world for so long that I'm trying to see what else is out there. And remember, I like the Leatherface, I like Lillingtons, I like Turnstile, all things you suggested to me. Leatherface particularly, and Lillingtons too. I mean, top notch.
Let's just, I want to play with this theme of you thinking you're obsessed with dad music. Afghan Wigs aren't dad music.
Yeah, I guess they're not, right? I mean, they're pretty. Yeah, they're not. They got some funky little edgy stuff going on, right? I mean, he's not a saint by any stretch of the imagination, right?
No. And what was the guy I didn't like? Christian Isabel?
Jason Isbell.
Jason Isbell, excuse me. Not necessarily dad music. That album may have been more dad-like than his, when he was doing drugs still. Right. There are some songs about his kids, but I don't think that defines him. But so I don't think you're in as much of a dad mood as you think you are.
Yeah. Well, that's good to know, because then that makes me feel a lot better in life.
We're going to have to figure out, we're going to have to come up with a definitive definition for.
Right. Let's do that first. Right. What is dad rock?
Yeah. Because it might be in your head. You know, and you might just be feeling old because your daughter wants to listen to Taylor Swift, and you want to listen to anything but Taylor Swift, right?
Sure. Yeah, and you know what? Listen, there's environments too when we're listening to these things. So it's like, how much time do you get to listen to these things? Number one, on your own, undivided. Do you get then swung into this other world where it's like, hey, you got to do all these things and be subjected to what they're listening to, and you can really kind of walk back, face down, and be like, oh man, I got to listen to this. I'm really in a dad mood today, and all of these things. So I think there's a lot of context to that. Absolutely. I do think it is important, like you said, we define what that rock is. Does that actually fit the definition I have in my head? Because maybe in my head it's this, but it's really called something else.
Right.
And that challenge I like. So can Mark find those newer punk albums that are good that 5-10 years from now we'd still be chatting about musically, even the commentary wise? Is it like a kind of a universal thing that still won't make me feel alienated? Because obviously no surprise, everyone, me and Mark are on polar opposite sides of a political spectrum here, right? But
we both love rock and roll.
But we both love rock and roll and each other, and each other, and the concept of each other.
I just wanted to do it.
There you go.
Those of you not at home, not watching us on YouTube, we've taken our index fingers, each on our left and our right hands, and we're just gently tapping them together.
That's all. Mine's a little more forceful. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh no, I'm being very gentle. Well, you know.
We love each other. We respect our opinions, and it's a beautiful thing about a friendship. So.
Absolutely. Did you notice I'm using a My Little Pony drinking cup? I don't know if you can.
Are you a brony?
No. This was just the first cup when I opened the cabinet.
Nice. Love it. So yeah, so that's what I feel in reference to this, and I think it's a fun challenge, and I'm gonna try to find, Mark, more intriguing, whatever. Is it rock? Is it folk? Is it whatever, singer-songwriter, whatever? And Mark's gonna find me those things. It's gonna be fun on the next episodes, folks. So you're going to want to definitely check them out. As you're going to want to check out this next episode, Mark, because let me tell you, I got a band that I don't have a lot of information on. All I can tell you is that I like that one album that they made. This band is called Tall Heart, Tall Heart, Hart. They have an album called We Are the Same from the year 2013. Don't know much about them. I believe they're from Tampa. I kind of like really their sound. The singer, he's got a really touching voice. It's more of a rock sound. There's some emotion in it. It's not I guess technically emo, and I don't know how much in the way of punk influence there is. But I really like this album. It's a shame that you get these one-offs from these bands and you can't find anything else on them, and they disbanded for whatever reason. And maybe we could I don't know, find someone on social media and do what the High on Stress guy did with Fig Dish, which is trying to get them back together. Maybe we could find someone from Tall Heart and get them back together.
I hope you haven't succeeded because that band sucked.
So Mark, you haven't heard of this band at all, right?
No, not at all. So listeners at home, if you're playing along, Tallhart, one word, Tall Heart. We Are the Same, 2013. It is on Spotify. Me and Frank checked for me.
Yes.
If you're looking for it, should be interesting. I literally, what you guys heard him say is what I know of the band. Nothing. So it should be interesting to dive in next week. We'll tackle maybe dad rock and make a list for you. We'll do some stuff.
It's going to be fun, everyone. So listen, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. If you're on YouTube, Mark and I really appreciate it from the bottom of our hearts. We got some cool stuff coming up. Join us on Facebook, Instagram, like us, leave us a message, whatever you want to do. Make us a recommendation. We're here to chat. Please do, because that's also a fun aspect of the show. And we'll go from there, right, Mark?
We will go from there, Frank.
All right, everyone. Be well.
I blew it. Bye-bye.